Victims? Don't be melodramatic. Look down there. Would you really feel any pity if one of those dots stopped moving forever? If I offered you 20,000 pounds for every dot that stopped, would you really, old man, tell me to keep my money? Or would you calculate how many dots you could afford to spin? Free of income tax, old man. Free of income tax. The only way you can save money nowadays.
Ba-ba-doo-da-boo. Hello, everyone, and we're back again with another episode of Jay Saki reviewing a movie. So be sure to sit back, relax, fill yourself a cup of whiskey or rum, and let's have a leisurely conversation about a film and hopefully learn some things at the exact same time. So I recently had the great opportunity, the privilege of watching the 1949 movie, The Third Man. It's a bit of a film noir-ish movie set in post-World War II Vienna, Austria. This film came to my attention because I was watching some stuff online, and then I watched one thing, and then The Third Man popped up, and I was like, what's that, And I watched a trailer for it. I'm like, oh, that looks a little bit interesting. I saw it was an old black and white film, and I'm like, I'm always open for finding out about old black and white films that, passed me by. So before even watching this movie, I researched it a little bit, and I learned that this is a part of what's called the Criterion Collection. So let's talk about that first. What is the Criterion Collection? I had heard about the Criterion Collection, this thing that is the Criterion Collection, for many years, but I was never quite sure what it was. And even upon researching it, it was a little bit tough to exactly figure it out. But this is what the Criterion Collection is, as best as I can describe. Basically, there's a film society / film institution in Hollywood that's all about preserving great films. They go back, find great films, and they preserve them. Now, one might think, great films are always preserved, right? The Wizard of Oz and Casablanca and whatever else like that, great films get preserved. True, but I guess the Criterion Collection is all about finding great films that were on the margins of popularity. Things that may have been critically acclaimed at the time, but they kind of fell away from the eye of the public, or fell away from the eye of history. And they would soon be forgotten if they were not identified and preserved. So I think the Criterion Collection would find older movies and find the film reels and digitally restore them a bit, touch them up, make sure that's all still, presented in the best quality and with the original editing. So within the Criterion Collection, you're not going to find necessarily the best picture stuff or all the Academy Award winners. Although, some of these movies did win Academy Awards and they get preserved. But they're always those movies that were, you never actually heard about them, but then you go back and watch them, you're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. Some examples of Criterion Collection movies would be a lot of Akira Kurosawa's movies. If you get a DVD of Yojimbo or The Hidden Fortress, the odds are you will see a Criterion Collection logo beforehand. So anyways, where was I? Yes, so The Third Man, it is a Criterion Collection movie. Like I said, just, the Criterion Collection preserved it, or has it in their collection, or whatever, it has the Criterion Collection mark of approval. And another thing about this movie that brought my attention to it was the screenplay is by Graham Greene, the Catholic author who wrote The Power and the Glory. And I've never actually read that, but I've heard people talk about the book, and apparently it's great. I've tried reading Power and the Glory, but I couldn't get into it. But apparently Graham Greene is a big deal. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that he wrote movies. And upon some research, I realized he actually wrote a whole bunch of movies. So yeah, he was deep in the Hollywood scene back in the day. So finally, Jay Saki, you've talked on long enough. What is The Third Man about? Basically, the film takes place in post-World War II, Vienna, Austria, and it's about black market and racketeering, whatever racketeering means. Racketeering is a type of organized crime that I always hear about, but it's always slightly hard to define. but for those who know what that is, racketeering. Okay, and it's about this guy named Holly Martins, who's an American author. He goes to Vienna to find an old friend of his, Harry Lime. And, he gets there, and Vienna is being looked... The Iron Curtain has not gone down yet, and you have, international police force of French, British, Americans, and Russians all trying to mitigate the law. And anyways, Holly is informed that his friend Harry is dead. He gets there just in time to see, his funeral. And it's alleged that, Harry, he was either he tripped in front of a moving vehicle and was killed, or maybe pushed. And, there was, 2 men who went in to intervene to pick up his body and take him to the closest hospital, but he was dead. But then someone says, I saw 3 men intervene to pick up the body. And Holly's like, well, who's the third guy? Who's the third guy there? And maybe this third man, this mysterious third, maybe he has the secret to what Harry was doing or why Harry was killed. And then the rest of the film is just essentially plays out like a film noir detective story. I dare say even more so than a lot of, alleged film noir detective stories, where it's just this guy, this American author, trying to find his friend Harry, or trying to find who killed Harry, what became of Harry, or what was Harry doing. And apparently Harry was tied up in the black market and racketeering or something. So first I want to talk about what I like about this movie. This was a very well filmed movie. For back then, I always think that movies were filmed too much like stage plays. Just because, naturally films were coming off the whole stage play era. But you could tell when you watch this film, a bit like Citizen Kane, there's all this very dynamic, thoughtful, carefully planned out film composition for every single scene. You can tell the actors were giving it their all. And all around, there's a whole lot of good just directing. Also, the writing was really good. It was very easy to follow. I think some movies pride themselves on being hard to follow, or you gotta be listening very carefully to every line of dialogue, or else you will completely lose the plot. And I get that, some people are slower than others, and I get that some movies expect you to be paying careful attention. Some people have low attention spans, but I don't think it's always a good thing that movies are hard to follow. I don't know if it's ever a good thing, but I do think it is the mark of good writing when something is so well written that it's complex, but it is easy to follow. You can follow what's happening. So even though, during this movie, so you got the main character, Holly, he's like, oh, what the heck happened to Harry? And he's, he hears from someone oh, there was 3 men, not 2. Why was everyone else saying 2 men? I wasn't following, every detail. I couldn't remember. I could not tell you why so many of the witnesses said, oh, there's 2 men, and why the one guy says, oh, there was 3. Or maybe that wasn't exactly it. Maybe it was conveyed slightly differently. Maybe there were multiple characters who said 3 men. But it was something like that, and I was able to say, okay, basically I got the idea. Holly Martins is here. His friend Harry Lime is dead. There's a mix-up over whether or not he fell in front of a car, was pushed in front of a car, and how many men there were. You can tell he was curious, and then he's getting unsatisfactory answers. And anytime he goes from one place to the other, okay, yeah, he's going here because of something he heard. Maybe you missed it, but you kind of get the idea. And then he's having a conversation with someone, and you can tell, okay, this person is part of something and doesn't want him to find out. And maybe it's a little unclear. I can't remember exactly why, but you can always tell there was something happening, or this person, for some reason, even if you miss the reason, is trying to do this thing to him, and it could only be for so many reasons that he's doing it. All I can say is they did a good job of making a film that, although it had some complexities to it, anyone could follow. You could actually put this movie on and peel potatoes, and you would be able to follow everything. Even if you missed a couple things, you could still get the idea. So this film is a very, very, very well-made movie. But did I actually think this was a good movie? On some level, yes. Yes, it's good, I think. But I'm gonna have to take the movie down a notch. The movie really lacked a soul. So anytime I watch a movie and I walk away feeling a little bit bored, what was the point of that? I can sometimes figure out a few things. Like, sometimes movies have, like, no romance whatsoever. It's like, shouldn't there have been, like, an epic romance here? Or a story about family, or fathers and sons, mothers, daughters, or some deep relationship? Movies need something like that. And it occurred to me by the time the film was over, it was really lacking in that department. The core of the film was the main guy trying to find his former best friend, Harry.
Oh, I'm just wild about Harry. Harry's wild about me. I can't live without Harry's wild about me.
And, okay, maybe that could... No, I'm thinking, like, okay, what if it was he was trying to find his long-lost love? No, it's not that. Okay, what if it was he was trying to find his brother? No, it's not his brother, it's his friend. Okay, well, how good of a friend is he? Were they best bros in college? It's not really clear, other than that that they were once, like, great friends or something, and, Harry's gone. So there's maybe ways they could have deepened that, but this film didn't do that. It was just kind of... Thinking back, because this movie does, even though it's not a detective movie per se, it is a detective movie. I thought about the detective genre. Like, I'm aware there are people who will love to read Sherlock Holmes stories or detective novels where the lone private eye is hired to do something. And I can't say I've ever been into stories like that. And I often wonder, like, what kind of person gravitates towards that kind of a story? Is it, inner narcissism? The idea like, oh, I want to be an awesome private detective who solves the crimes and figures things out, like an early pseudo-superhero, if you will. So, like, what's the consensus on detective noir stories? Can we poll all Americans and say, like, well, do detective noirs, do those speak to you? Is there some deeper meaning to the detective noir? It's kind of niche as a concept, the detective who figures things out. All I'm saying is, I think that's my theory for why I don't love this movie, and why it seemed to be lacking a soul, as it were. Because yes, it's, main guy, goes to visit Vienna. What happens? Oh, he can't find his friend Harry, who's been killed. Well, how did Harry die? And he's trying to figure out, like, why did he die? And then he goes snooping around. But it's like, well, what does Harry mean to you exactly? It's a little bit just fuzzy. It's like, and it's interesting because it's like, okay, it's this interesting setting post World War II Vienna, but and you learn some things. But other than the guy following, they give you no reason to want to see him figure things out. There isn't. I think there is a love interest, in the movie, kind of, sort of, but she's just kind of barely there. So then the movie ends, and you don't want this movie to be lost because there's a lot of good history there, but it doesn't really hold up well over time. I once heard somebody describe certain allegedly classic novels that were famous in their time because they brought everyone's attention to a certain problem or social issue, but then after that, that's all they are really remembered for. They're not actually good novels. And I think that's kind of why this movie's remembered. It's because it, I guess made everyone consider black market operations and racketeering in post-World War II Europe. Something like that. So now the question is, what did we learn? I learned author Graham Greene also wrote movies. Maybe everyone knew that already, but I never did. I learned that there was indeed a black market and racketeering going on in post-World War II Austria. I learned this movie existed. I hope you all learned what the Criterion Collection was all about. Other than that, I don't think I have that much more to say about this one. Sometimes you go back and you research older black and white films and find some hidden gems. Then you find some that are almost gems. Then you realize, this is why this film's not quite as well remembered as it might want to be. But, you gotta keep searching. You gotta keep searching for truth. You gotta keep searching for facts. Because if we don't, then we are doomed to live in a world of illusions and falsehoods. And we must not live within falsehood, audience. We must not. Let our pursuit of finding good movies be a guide on the road to godliness. That is all. That is all I have. Have a good night, everyone. Oh, wait. I think I just figured out the whole point of the movie. Never mind, you've all been here long enough. Go do something else. Good night, everyone. Good night. Good day, sir.